Okay, so with the most recent selection pack, we finally got the last wave of Fiendsmith cards that we were waiting on in Master Duel. Those namely being Lacrima, the Crimson Tears, and to a lesser extent Fiendsmith Agdam. We also funnily enough randomly got Fiendsmith's Rex Tremende, which is kind of funny because in paper this came out way later than Lacrima did. But for the purpose of this video, I won't be discussing decks that use Rex Tremende. There's very few decks that actually take advantage of this card. Like this is, even though it's a Fiendsmith card, this isn't really used in the majority of Fiendsmith engines. There are certain decks that do use this though, so let me know if you're interested in me covering those. But yeah, we mainly want to focus on Lacrima and Agdam and what they bring to the Fiendsmith engine. And currently, I believe that Master Duel has the strongest of the Fiendsmith engine out of all three formats, those being TCG, OCG, and Master Duel. Because in TCG, even though TCG has 3 engraver, they don't have Lacrima, because the TCG has banned Fiendsmith Lacrima, the fusion, which this is obviously a big deal. Like this fusion is an integral part of the engine. It gives you a free body on summon, so it makes rank 6s easily. It also lets you use Engraver's effect to get more Life Fiends engrave. It also just puts out a lot of damage very easily because it has a burn effect too, and that burn effect is why it got banned in the TCG in the first place, because of the time rules. Lacrima was kind of being abused the time rules, so they had to ban it there. And in the OCG, not only does OCG only have 1 engraver, but OCG also doesn't have Necrocryptmances. This card currently does not even exist in the OCG yet. So, yeah, this card, not only does this make Fiendsmith combo a lot easier to do because it immediately puts an extra Light Fiend engrave for you, this card also just has really strong effects. Like each time you use a monster effect that's sent from the hand to the graveyard, like I don't know, a hand trap, you get to either draw a card or you get to steal that card from the graveyard. So for example, like let's say you're playing against an opposing Fiendsmith player and they pitch their engraver, you can just steal their engraver and equip it to Necrocryptmances, yoink. Or let's say you're playing against Blue Eyes and they activate Maiden of White. You can make your Blue Eyes opponent Maidenless by just stealing their Maiden and placing it and equipping it to the Necrocryptmances. So whoopsie there. And like 2 strong effects plus a combo nailer that OCG does not have. Not to mention OCG has less copies than Engraver. So currently, Master Duel has the strongest Fiendsmith engine. And I know a lot of people are dooming right now about how the Fiendsmith engine is getting buffed and how that's going to be a buff to the degenerate combo decks that played this engine, like Snake Eyes and so forth. But I'm gonna be honest with you, those decks were already good without Lacrima. Okay, there's a reason those decks were able to play the Fiendsmith engine in the first place. Then they already put out oppressive boards without the full Fiendsmith engine. So like Lacrima, sure, they can play this card. It helps them. But in my opinion, the release of Lacrima helps a certain type of deck out way more than the degenerate combo decks. And that are the Fiendsmith control decks, the decks that are more mid-rangey and don't put out, 5, 6 plus interruptions off of just one card. They play more of a grindy game and a resource game. And those are the type of decks that I want to highlight in this video. And in fact, I want to show a few different ways of how you can build these Fiendsmith control decks. But first, let's cover the new cards first. Lacrima, the Crimson Tears. This is the main card that everyone's been waiting for. Basically, if this card is summoned, so normal or special summoned, you can dump a Fiendsmith card from your deck to the graveyard. And what's very important about this is that usually you're going to either you normal summon this or you summon this off of Requiem, and then this will dump something like an engraver to graveyard. And that immediately just gives you an extra Light Fiend to use. So it makes your fusion counts for sequence easier. It gives you additional Light Fiends to shuffle back with Engraver, and it also provides you an extra body on the field because, instead of summoning the Engraver itself, you summon the Lacrima that will dump the Engraver, which then you can summon the Engraver back. So you get an extra body to play with too. And for Fiendsmith control decks, the important part about this card is also in its second effect, which is during your opponent's turn, if this card is in your graveyard, you can target a Fiendsmith Link monster in your graveyard, shuffle this card into the deck, and if you do, special summon that monster. So how you're supposed to use this effect is you want to keep, after you do your Fiendsmith combo, you want to keep a Lacrima and a Fiendsmith Requiem in graveyard. That way, during your opponent's turn, you're going to use Lacrima's effect to shovel itself back and then special summon Requiem during your opponent's turn. And then during the main phase, you're going to use Requiem to special back the Lacrima from your deck that you just shovel back in. And then on the special summon, Lacrima can send a Fiendsmith card to the graveyard. But this time, on your opponent's turn, you're not going to be sending an Engraver again. No, you're going to be sending Fiendsmith in Paradise, or as some would say, Paradise.
Paradise set.
So this card, the relevant effect for this card is in its second effect, its graveyard effect, where if your opponent special summons a monster while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish this card, send a Fiendsmith monster from your extra deck or extra deck to the graveyard. And how to use this as an interruption is you're going to banish this card and you're going to send a copy of Fiendsmith Desiree from your extra deck to the graveyard. When Fiendsmith Desiree is sent to the graveyard, you can shuffle another Light Fiend monster from your graveyard into your deck, and then target a card in the field and send it to the graveyard. So essentially, this is like a pseudo Promethean Princess for the deck, where when your opponent special summons a monster, you can just Fiendsmith in Paradise, banish, send the Desiree, and send the card, and that's an additional interruption. On top of what you would normally use the Fiendsmith for, you probably also have a rank 6 somewhere on board, like for example, a the Wave Hiking Caesar or a Evilsaur Lars, or sometimes you might even have another Desiree, because you're going to see in the builds that I'm showing you that oftentimes people will play 2 Desiree. That way you can make 1 Desiree, just to be on the field, and then you can play a second Desiree for a send for the Fiendsmith Paradise, so you can get multiple interruptions that way. And that is basically the crux and the main point of how Fiendsmith control works. This interaction right here. And obviously, prior to the release of laCREAMa, we couldn't have a way to consistently dump Fiendsmith in Paradise to the graveyard, and we're also down a Light Fiend for the control deck, so it was a lot harder to play Fiendsmith control prior to laCREAMa. But now that we have this, now they're quite honestly, the possibilities are limitless on what you can do with this engine. And also we got Fiendsmith Magnum Day. This is like a lesser extent. This isn't really like a combo enabler or anything, but this is just a way that that you can push for a lot of damage. So Magnum Day, usually you make this is a link 3, so usually you're gonna make this with Sequence plus another Fiendsmith monster. Oftentimes you're gonna make this with Desiree. You're gonna hard make a Desiree with Sequence, then you're gonna link off the Desiree and the Sequence into Magnum Day. Why? Because once per turn you can target the light one light non-fiend link monster in your graveyard, non-link fiend monster in your graveyard. So, for example, if you made this with Desiree, you can just target a Desiree that you used to make the Magnum Day in the first place. And then if you do equip this card, you control to that monster with the equip cell with the following effects, which means that this equipped monster gains attack equal to the total link rating of link monsters equipped to it times 600. So just the Magnum Day equipped to the Desiree itself gives Desiree an extra 1800 attack, plus the equipped monster deals piercing damage. So how you push for a lot of damage is you can just make Fiends of Magnum Day, attack for 18, quick effect in the battle phase, summon back Desiree, equip the Magnum Day to Desiree, and then swing for another 28 plus the 1800 that it gains from the Magnum Day. So then there will be an initial 4600 attack. So 46 plus 18 is 6400. That's like a hell of a lot of damage that you can just do. Plus you do deal piercing, and also it gives Desiree an extra negate. Technically Desiree can now negate 3 face-up cards on the field at once, although that's not really relevant. But yeah, it does give Desiree a lot more attack, and you can also use it as an endboard piece too, where if you have extra bodies, you can link off into Magnum Day. Magnum Day will then revive the Desiree. Then the Desiree can be equipped with both the Magnum Day and the Sequence, so that now it has a ton of attack and also can be targeted. So yeah, this is a neat card right here, a neat utility card. But yeah, that's basically the gist of the new cards and what you need to know about the new cards in the Fiendsmith engine. So now I want to get to some ways to actually build Fiendsmith control. Alright, first I want to show off a couple combos and a general idea of how you want to be playing Fiendsmith control type of decks. And again, this is not a combo deck, so these combos are not long at all. In fact, they're pretty straightforward and quite simple. So yeah, the first combo is just the 1-card combo. What you do if you just open literally any Light Fiend. So laCREAMa, for example, is the best normal summon, because if you open laCREAMa, it's literally impossible for your opponent to hand trap you in a way to prevent you from getting to an interruption. Because just opening laCREAMa by itself, no matter what they throw at you, Imperm, Ash, Fool Loss, whatever the hell they want, you will always at least end on 1 interruption through the Paradise trap card. But yeah, it could be anything as well. This could be literally any Light Fiend. It could be Tracked. It could be Engraver. It could be anything. It could be any 2 monsters. All paths lead to the same end goal. So yeah, we're gonna start with normal summon laCREAMa, and if you start normal summon laCREAMa, we're just gonna send an engraver to graveyard, and then we're going to link the laCREAMa into a Fiendsmith Requiem, and then we're gonna use Requiem and summon out the other engraver from deck. And here we can use engraver. Sorry, man, we're not using engraver yet. We're using Fiendsmith Requiem to equip to the engraver. Then we can make a Necro Crypt Princess using Requiem plus engraver. And then we can use engraver, and we're going to shuffle back the other engraver to summon out the engraver. This is very important because there's only really one important thing to keep in mind, is that you want to keep a laCREAMa, the Crimson Tears, and the Fiendsmith Requiem in graveyard for your combo. And now that you have a 2 level 6 on board, you can just make any rank 6 you want. So like, for example, let's just make Caesar nice and simple, and now you have DDD Wave Hiking Caesar plus the setup for with laCREAMa and Fiendsmith Requiem in graveyard, and that's it. That's the 1-card combo. Okay, it's a rank 6 plus the setup for the Fiendsmith in Paradise trap card, and then the rest of your hand, you know, because this was a 1-card combo, hopefully the rest of your hand is like 4 different non-engine, which this hand basically is. But yeah, to showcase off like what you're supposed to do. So on your opponent's turn, first, you know, let's get the main phase. They can use Danger Bigfoot, and you know, thank you for using a effect that special summons. So now we're going to just negate it with Caesar. So, you know, keep in mind Caesar is like 2 Solemn Warnings as well. And then, you know, on top of the Caesar, now we can also use. So we're going to use laCREAMa effect in graveyard, and we're going to target Fiendsmith Requiem, and we're going to shuffle back the laCREAMa to summon out the Requiem in the main phase. And now we're going to use Requiem. And we're going to use Requiem to summon back the laCREAMa that we just shuffled back. And we're going to use laCREAMa's effect, and we're going to dump Fiendsmith in Paradise. And Fiendsmith in Paradise, when our opponent special summons a monster, so for example, let's say they hit. They did not hit, but yeah, when our opponent special summons a monster, this is like Peruvian Princess for Fiendsmith. You can use the Fiendsmith in Paradise effect in graveyard to banish, and then we're going to send a copy of Fiendsmith Desiree to the graveyard, and then you can use Desiree's effect to shuffle back a Light Fiend back into your extra deck, and then you can send a card to the graveyard. So yeah, this setup basically gets you DDD Wave Hiking Caesar or any rank 6 you want, plus a send off of the Fiendsmith in Paradise, sending the Fiendsmith Desiree. And obviously, because this is a Fiendsmith deck, we have follow up for days, we have follow up from the engravers, we have follow up because we shuffle our extra deck back into our extra deck. We can do the entire Fiendsmith line again on the next turn, you know, after grinding our opponent out with our Fiendsmith engine and with all our other non-engine. And yeah, that's basically it. It's very, very simple. That's what I like about this deck. You don't have to spend like hours upon hours looking at spreadsheets or paying people for like fucking spreadsheets just to learn how to play the deck. It's just simple, like very simple. Literally takes less than a minute to execute combos, and then you can just get straight to playing the Yu-Gi-Oh! And interacting with your opponent like how it should be, right? Alright, so next I want to show what you can do if you open a 2-card combo, which is Engraver plus literally any other way to Fiendsmith combo. So it could be literally any Light Fiend, it could be laCREAMa, could be a normal summon lure, it could be tracked, or it could be just any 2 monsters, such as here we have a Cashier monster plus any hand trap. And this is about as complicated as like the combos will get for this type of deck. So, you know, first we'll get to our Fiendsmith engine. We'll and quote-unquote Fiendsmith engine, Fiendsmith Cashier, you know, Cashier Unicorn will add us our birth. And just activate it right now, and I'll normal summon one of our 2 hand traps, and we'll go into Moon of the Closed Heaven. And then we can bridge the moon into a Fiendsmith sequence. Or, sorry, sequence. Fiendsmith Requiem, my bad. And here, so you can summon back the Unicorn right now. It plays a bit worse than Nibiru, but it does play around at your Requiem getting Ash, for example. For example, if you use Cashier Birth to revive the Cashier Unicorn right now, and your Requiem gets Ashed, at least you get a extra deck rip off for your troubles as well. But yeah, that depends You can summon the unicorn whenever you want. The unicorn is not going to be part of this combo anymore. We're just going to leave the unicorn, you know, as part of our end board piece. But now we're going to use Requiem, and we're going to summon out our Lacrima, and we're going to use Lacrima to send the other engraver to graveyard. And here, I'm going to equip the Requiem to the Lacrima, and we're going to make a Necroquip Princess using Lacrima plus the Fiendsmith Requiem that's equipped to it. And here, because we hard drew the engraver, we can use the engraver's effect now, and we can actually add our copy of Fiendsmith's Paradise. So this is something you can do when you open like a 2-card combo with a engraver in hand. So we're gonna hard add the Fiendsmith Paradise this time, and now we're going to use Necroquip Princess and just draw a card for free. You know, why not? Sick, more non-engine. And here we're going to use our Fiendsmith Engraver, and we're going to put back our Moon of the Closed Heaven and special summon back the Engraver. And now Engraver plus Necroquip, we can go into our Fiendsmith sequence. And sequence is actually going to shuffle back we're gonna shuffle back Engraver, Requiem, and our Lacrima or Engraver. You can shuffle back. You can choose to either keep the Engraver or the Lacrima Engraver for your choice of follow-up. This time it doesn't really matter because we don't need to maintain the Lacrima and the Requiem in graveyard for this combo because we already have Fiendsmith Engraver or Fiendsmith Paradise in hand, so we don't need to use the Lacrima to dump this during our opponent's turn. So yeah, we're going to make a Desiree right now, and now we're going to just link off the Desiree and the sequence into an Agnum Day, and we're going to use we're not going to use Desiree's effect, and we're going to use Agnum Day's effect to special summon back to Desiree. And I'll put in attack mode this time, so it's going to gain attack, and then we equip the Agnum Day to it, and then we're going to equip the sequence to the Desiree. So you can see why we added the Fiendsmith Paradise. First of all, 5800 attack Fiendsmith Desiree. Lol, try attacking over this shit. That can't be targeted. But since we hard drew we hard add the Fiendsmith Paradise, we can just set the Fiendsmith Paradise, and you know, I'll just set the Imperm. And the reason we can do this is because Fiendsmith Paradise, the first effect on field, it doesn't come up as often, but in hands, the 2-card combos where you can do this, where you can target a level 7 or higher life fiend monster you control, send all cards in the field to the graveyard that are not that monster. So how this works is, you know, you're gonna negate something with Fiendsmith Desiree, and then you're gonna flip Fiendsmith Paradise, and you're gonna send the entire board to the graveyard because Desiree is the one fusion monster that's a level 7 or higher fiend monster. In fact, it's level 9. That allows you to use Fiendsmith Paradise on field effect. So you can send everything, and then when the Fiendsmith Paradise goes to the graveyard inevitably, then you can use Fiendsmith Paradise effect again when your opponent special summons to banish itself, and then, you know, send the second copy of Desiree from your extra deck, and then send another card. So this is like, this here right here is like 3 interruptions off this Desiree, because you get the Desiree negate to send the full board wipe off the Fiendsmith Paradise, plus, you know, the Fiendsmith Paradise grave effect. So we'll see if we can, you know, do something with this. Just as an example, I'll just negate the Allure. And also, it's funny enough, I can negate like 5 cards, but like there's really no situation where you're ever gonna find 5 cards that are profitable to negate off the Desiree. But yeah, we'll negate the Allure. See if our opponent does anything. Okay, Dark World opponent. Okay, I'll let you poke a little bit, and Jesus Christ. Okay, Grapha. No, it's fine. I don't need to burf that. Danger, Bigfoot, and hit the Bigfoot. No, you hit the Dogman. Okay, cool. So on that, that's Unicorn. You know, might as well Unicorn rip something just to say I'd had the interruption, and then, you know, just random, doesn't really matter. And here, we can use Fiendsmith in Paradise, and we can send the entire field, for example, target Desiree, and then just send everything. Assuming you use all your interruptions first, then... it's very funny we can purge that, but yeah, they're gonna Danger Chupacabra, and then, on the summon, Fiendsmith in Paradise, now we can trigger it again, and now we can use Fiendsmith in Paradise, and we're gonna send the second Desiree from deck, and now we can trigger the Desiree, and we can shuffle back shuffle back the sequence, and then we can send another card our opponent controls. So, yeah. And I'll just discard this to freeze our opponent. Okay, Fable Lurry. And yeah, you can see how this works. Okay, I'll just keep this right here. So that's how the 2-card combo works, and how you get the setup with the Desiree plus the Fiendsmith in Paradise on field. That way you get the double Fiendsmith in Paradise effect plus the Desiree. So this is what an example Fiendsmith control deck would look like. Just pure quote-unquote Fiendsmith, even though there are other archetypes in here, but they're mainly used to help facilitate you just getting to your Fiendsmith line and your Fiendsmith combo, and then you just run a bunch of hand traps. So that's going to be the common trend with all of the decks I'm going to show you in this video, is that they have tons of room to run hand traps. Okay, you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like at least 18 slots to use hand traps in these decks. So you can literally just play whatever hand traps you want in your deck. Okay, that's the thing about this Fiendsmith control, is that these types of decks are very, malleable. They're very versatile in the fact that you can just literally select your non-engine specifically to beat whatever the meta is currently. So yeah, this is just showcases like all the room this deck has for non-engine. And then the Fiendsmith core itself, it's pretty self-explanatory. Honestly, you have because this is a pure deck, you're running 3 copies of Lacrima and 3 copies of Fiendsmith Track, and 2 copies of Engraver, because Lacrima and Track, both of these are just 1-card full Fiendsmith combo lines. You get to a rank 6 plus the Fiendsmith in Paradise and Graveyard for Ascend off of just any single one of these single 1 cards gets you to your entire line. A Cashier Monster plus any normal summon hand trap also gets you there. And to fill out the deck space, because this deck is a little low on starters if you're just playing pure, we are playing a couple Magical Musketeers. This is just one option you can run. Like, realistically, you can literally run any Light Fiend you want. You can also play any engine that gets you 2 bodies as well. Anything will work. This is just an example of what you could run to fill out the space. And what I like about Magical Musketeers is that these can all be used to link into Magical Musketeer Max, which the important part about this card is that this is a Light Fiend. Okay, so basically, whenever you open a Magical Musketeer, not only is it full Fiendsmith combo, but you also get an extra Light Fiend in rotation when you do your Fiendsmith combo through your Magical Musketeers, because you can link it off into Musketeer Max first before linking it off into your Requiem. So you get an additional light body to play with. Makes your shuffling for your sequence easier, makes making Desiree easier, so on and so forth. But yeah, this isn't like a Magical Musketeer deck, so we're not playing any spell and traps to facilitate these Musketeer cards. We're just playing these because these are some of the best Light Fiends that you can run. However, keep in mind that going second, these do have utility. For example, if a spell card is activated in this card's column, for example, let's say you open Caspar plus Tract or like Starfire plus Tract, you can activate the Tract in the same column as your Magical Musketeer monster as well, and then get an additional effect. You can special summon a Musketeer monster from your deck with Starfire, or you can add a Magical Musket card from your deck to your hand, which you can just we're not playing any spell and trap, so realistically you're just adding another copy of Starfire to your hand as another Light Fiend fodder. But yeah, you can trigger these bonus effects if you want to, but they're not really integral to the deck strategy, because we're not really trying to utilize the Magical Musketeer cards. It's just a nice bonus whenever you can. But also, Magical Musketeer Max has bonus effects for when you're going second too, and you're playing into your opponent's boards, because you can either add Magical Musket spell and trap cards, which is not relevant. It's not relevant for this deck, but you can special summon magical musket monsters with different names up to the number of spell and traps your opponent controls. So if you are going second and you open a musketeer, you can go a musketeer into Max, and then Max just special summons another body from your deck if your opponent has spell and trap. So you basically either that negate that baits out like an imperm or another hand trap or whatever, or you just get another body on top of getting an extra light fiend. So yeah, that's just basically it. It's honestly, it's a lot of explanation for essentially just saying that lol light fiend. That's all like I could have just said. But yeah, and then it's very. Yeah, there's not much to say. Like, the main deck is honestly very straightforward. You want to max out on Lacrima if you're playing the pure deck, because again, hard opening Lacrima basically makes you like immune to hand traps. Because no matter what your opponent has, no matter if they max you can just make like Fiendsmith Requiem, give them one draw, and then on your opponent's turn, Requiem will summon back the Lacrima, and the Lacrima can send the Paradise. So you always get at least the Paradise send if you hard open Lacrima. They could Ash your Requiem, it's whatever. They could Imperm your Lacrima. They could you can still make Requiem. They can like Droll doesn't do anything. No, Fool Loss is only one draw. Ogre doesn't do anything. So like literally, if you open this card, you will always get at least minimum one interruption. No matter how many hand traps your opponent throws at you, 2, 3 doesn't really matter. You will always still get the Paradise in trap, Fiendsmith in Paradise in the graveyard. And then the extra deck, so mostly standard for you have one Lacrima, one Necrocrypt, double Desiree. You run the double Desiree for the 2-card combo again, where you open Engraver, because then you can. As I showed, you can make a Desiree on your end board, and then also have a Desiree to send for the Fiendsmith in Paradise later on. So, yeah, that's why we run 2 Desiree. Again, you don't need to run 2 Desiree. Honestly, like that play is not super necessary to do. It's just if you have the 2 Desiree, you do have the extra deck space to be able to utilize it. So it's something that you can consider. M7 and DDD. Wave hiking Caesar. I think you need Caesar, and then M7 is good for follow up, and then you can either run another rank 6, like you can run, for example, an Evils or Lars if you want, or what we're running here is we're running a Zeus package with Gaia Chargers. You can put a Gaia Dragon on top of one of your rank 6s, attack, and then go into Zeus as well, which is also important because Dominus Purge. If you'd like to play Dominus Purge, keep in mind there are some extra deck cards that get turned off by Dominus Purge. For example, Caesar gets turned off. Typhon gets turned off, although the floodgate effect for Typhon still applies, but you can't use this effect to return to hand, and SP gets turned off. So if you are under the Dominus Purge lock, and let's say you can't really make a the wave hiking Caesar for interruption, you can just convert the Caesar into a Zeus, which then the Zeus is a light monster. Then that's another way to get like 2 interruptions anyways, off of rank 6. So yeah, and then Typhon. Musketeer Max for the Musketeers. If you're not running the Musketeers, you can just play like a second Requiem, and SP, Moon, Sequence, and Agnum Day, and yeah, that's pretty much it. This is a pretty straightforward, pretty streamlined, and deceptively effective controlled type of deck. So the next build of Fiendsmith control I want to show is obviously, as you can see here, Primite Fiendsmith. And the Fiendsmith combo, same concept. You're trying to go through the Fiendsmith line and to eventually end on a Lacrima and a Requiem in graveyard, so that you can send Paradise on your opponent's turn. But also you have the Primite engine as well, which also gets you interruptions in the form of, say, Drill Beam and Roar, for example. So for the 1-card combo, like the 1-card combo. Primite Dragon After Barrel, you actually can't search Drill Beam if you want to go through the Fiendsmith line, because then you have no way to go into Fiendsmith. If you just search After Barrel Drill Beam and have no other extenders. But we hard drew the Drill Beam, so yeah, we're gonna normal summon After Barrel, and then After Barrel is gonna set the Lordly Load, and then Lordly Load is going to add a copy of Primite Roar. Okay. And now Primite Roar, you pay 2k, then you declare a normal monster card name, and then Primate monsters you control can, with that the declared normal monster and Primate monster you control can't be destroyed by battle until the end of your opponent's turn. And if you control no monsters, you can special summon one declare normal monster from your deck in defense position. So you have to not control a monster. So that means we have to use Primite Dragon Efferbarrel's effect first. So we have to tribute this card to clear our board first, and then we can send a vanilla monster, to our graveyard. So let's send that driver, baby. Yeah, that driver is our second vanilla monsters. And now we can use Primite Roar. Now that our field is clear, we can use the Primite Roar, and we're gonna declare. I'm sorry, my man, White Duston, you've been replaced. Dippity came out in this selection pack, and Dippity is a light fiend normal monster, but the only difference is that it's level 4, so level 4 is a more useful level, unfortunately. So goodbye, White Duston. It was, the proudest of them all. So now we summon the Dippity out. Dippity is a light fiend, and now we can turn the Dippity into our Fiendsmith Requiem. And now this is, just the standard Fiendsmith line, so you can do Requiem. And Requiem will summon out the Lacrima. And then Lacrima will send the Engraver. And we're gonna equip the Requiem to the Lacrima. And make Necroquip with the Lacrima and the Requiem. Next, use Engraver, shuffle back the Dippity, and then with Ringraver plus Necroquip Princess, we can go into our Caesar if you want. So, going to Caesar, and if we have access to Drill Beam, you would now use Lordly Load, and you would declare I would declare Siphon Driver. This can be any level 6 vanilla monster that you can choose. People have run Wattail Dragon, people run Summon Skull, people run Beast of Talwar, whatever, doesn't matter. I'm using Driver in my build because I'm playing Gamma, but yeah, you would summon that monster out using Lordly Load, and then your Drill Beam is live, and also you have a Primite Roar Engraver, so when your opponent normal summons a monster, you can banish Roar and then banish the monster they control with 2,500 less attack, because that's how much attack the Siphon Driver has. So this one card combo, just one Effort Barrel gets you like the rank 6 plus the Lacrima Engrave with the Requiem to summon on our opponent's turn, plus the Roar banish, which is that's 3 to 4 interruptions by itself. And obviously, if you open a Roar, if you open Drill Beam, then Drill Beam, if you have access to it, is also an insane form of interruption as well. So, yeah, and we'll see if our opponent plays into this. So, opponent is playing the Monarchs and a normal summon, and here we can use Roar, and we can just banish their normal summon, target the Siphon Driver, and then we can also use Lacrima to summon the Requiem, and summon the Requiem, banish their Idia, and then use a Requiem, can tribute itself, and we can summon out the Lacrima that we just shuffled back. And then Lacrima can then send the Paradise. Now we get the Paradise interruption as well. And our wow, Monarch is such a good deck, guys. But yeah, that's the one card, just one Effort Barrel, the one card Fiendsmith Primite combo. So this is what a Primite Fiendsmith deck would look like, and I didn't really bother showing off the 2-card combos because they're really, honestly, really simple. You can probably figure them out by yourselves, but yeah, if you open say Effort Barrel plus Lordly Load, the only thing that changes is that now you have access to Drill Beam as well, because now you can Lordly Load, search the Roar, and Effort Barrel search the Drill Beam, and then just do the exact same combo except with a Drill Beam access. And you can also do the exact same combo with the Desiree plus Fiendsmith in Paradise search Fiendsmith in Paradise on field effect. When you open Engraver plus Fiendsmith combo, it's pretty much the exact same as I showed you in the last combo, the any way to get the Fiendsmith engine plus Engraver gets you to Desiree on field with a Fiendsmith and Paradise search and a draw one. So yeah, it's pretty much the same in this deck as it was in the previous deck. And yeah, here once again, loads of hand traps. So nothing much to say. Just run whatever hand traps you want. And the Primite engine is 3 Effort Barrel obvious, 3 Lordly Load obvious, 2 Drill Beam. I like 2 Drill Beam in control based decks because if you have 2 Drill Beam, it means you can basically cycle one every turn. So for example, you go first, you search a Drill Beam, you have access to Drill Beam. When it passes back to you on turn 3, if you only have 1 Drill Beam, then you can't use it that turn because the Drill Beam has to reset itself. But obviously you can't use a Quick Play spell the same turn it was set. So on turn 3, you go without Drill Beam activation. However, if you run 2, then you can simply just search another Drill Beam off the Effort Barrel that you get back. And that way you have constant access to a Drill Beam every turn. And by like turn 5, after you Drill Beam your opponent 4 times, that should be enough to win the game by then. After Drill Beaming your opponent for 4 consecutive turns. That's why you play the double Drill Beam. And I like triple Primite Roar. So here, you notice that we're cutting down the Fiendsmith engine a bit. We only need 1 Lacrima because we have another dedicated normal summon in Effort Barrel, so we don't need to normal summon Lacrima as much. We're focusing on normal summon Effort Barrel, so Lacrima is basically just something you search or you summon off of the Requiem. That being said, if you draw Lacrima, Lacrima still works as a 1-card combo too. You can do the exact same Fiendsmith combo as I showed in the previous deck. So, yeah, and then 3 Primite Roar over Tract, because I think Primite Roar is just better to open in my opinion than a Fiendsmith Tract. They both do similar things, is that they're extenders that get you 1-card combos without even using your normal summon. But Tract, I like Roar better because Roar also can get you a interruption in a sense, in that Primite Roar is a Primite card. So in the instances where you hard open Drill Beam, especially when you're going second and you have like Drill Beam plus Primite Roar, you can immediately use the Drill Beam as like a board breaker. Whereas if you open Drill Beam plus Fiendsmith Tract, obviously then you wouldn't be able to use the Drill Beam in that instance. So yeah, other than that, Tract and Roar are honestly just pretty much equivalent. They're both 1-card starters to Fiendsmith combo without using a normal summon. And the only difference is that Primite Roar, you have to lead your turn with it because you have to control no monsters, for example, whereas Primite Fiendsmith Tract, you can use it as an extender later in the turn. But again, it's still largely 90% of the time, like in terms of getting to your Fiendsmith combo, these are pretty similar. And I'd like the utility of being able to open Primite Roar with Drill Beam more than just opening more Fiendsmith Tract, because this deck also has another search target. If you hard open Tract, you still have another search target for Engraver and Fiendsmith Paradise. You can go into a Desiree line if you hard draw the Paradise or hard draw the Tract and have a way to get the Engraver back to hand. So yeah, it's not bad drawing the Tract either, even if it's your like 1 Engraver target too. But yeah, other than that, the vanillas I'm choosing to run, again, I'm choosing to run Gamma because I think Gamma is a really good hand trap right now. So obviously, if you're running Gamma, you have to run the Driver. You can run other options too. The Driver, I will say that you just mainly want your second vanilla to be a level 6 normal monster. So people have run stuff like Wattail Dragon. Wattail Dragon can make seals with Effort Barrel. So that's in a situation where this comes up. There's also Beast of Talwar. Beast of Talwar is a Fiend monster, so that you can use Beast of Talwar to make Caesar situationally, because Caesar requires Fiend monsters. But if it's a level 6, as long as it's a level 6, you can still always make M7. And with a level 6, it also allows you to make Chaos Angel now with the secondary vanilla monster, which is now Dippity. Dippity, if you didn't know, Dippity just released in the Legacy pack this patch, and unfortunately, as you can see in the title of this deck, our good pal, the proudest of them all, the White Dustin, is no longer optimal in this deck. So pour one out for our boy here. But yeah, level 4 just is way more synergistic with this deck than level 1 is, unfortunately. As mentioned, level 4 pairs very easily to make very easy Chaos Angels with your level 6 Engravers and your level 6 Necrocrit Princess, so that you can even get to a Dark Light Chaos Angel pretty easily with Dippity. But also, I'm not playing it in this build, but you also can do rank 4 plays with Dippity as well, because your Effort Barrel and your laCREAMas are both level 4. So you can, for example, if you're really afraid of Mermail, which came out in this patch, you can make like a Bystial, for example. Just as an example, like you can run rank 4s in here too with Dippity as well. But yeah, it's Dippity and one level 6 vanilla normal of your choice. And then the rest, yeah, I think I went over the entire deck pretty thoroughly. It's just hand traps and stuff. The extra deck is mostly the same. laCREAMa, Necroquip, double Fiendsmith Desiree for the Paradise to play. M7, Wave King, Caesar, Typhon, Requiem, SP, Moon, Sequence, Agnum Day. In here, so we're running the Chaos Angels here too, and here we're also running a Zeus package again. Gaia plus Zeus. Same old. I think the only difference is that the only difference between this extra deck and the previous extra deck I showed was that instead of playing the Musketeer, because we're not playing any Musketeer cards, we're just running the Chaos Angel instead. But yeah, that's a Primite for you, and arguably I think Primite might be the stronger version between this and the pure Fiendsmith control deck. So for those of you who have played Fiendsmith Control prior to laCREAMa's release in Master Duel, you might be noticing a card that's been missing in the two previous decks. And of course, that card I'm talking about is in the extra deck, the Destroy Phoenix Enforcer. So without previously, before laCREAMa, DPE was a staple in Fiendsmith Control decks, because this was the payoff you were going for, because we didn't have laCREAMa sending Fiendsmith in Paradise during our opponent's turn. So obviously there are pros and cons of DPE. The cons is that it requires more engine space and more deck space than laCREAMa. laCREAMa is like 2 cards. The laCREAMa and quote-unquote engine is just 2 cards, one of which is laCREAMa itself, which isn't even a bad card at all. laCREAMa is basically just a starter, and then you just have to run 1 brick in Fiendsmith in Paradise. Whereas for DPE, you have to run the Fusion Destiny, and you also have to run 2 bricks. So it's a bigger engine requirement, and it's more bricks. But the payoff is arguably better, because Destroy Phoenix Enforcer, you know, being just a non-targeting quick play pop that also gives you a pot of greed on the following turn is just more versatile than a send whenever your opponent special summons a monster. So if you still want to play DPE in Fiendsmith Control builds post laCREAMa, you absolutely still can. And the best way, in my opinion, to still use the DPE is with gadgets, because gadgets are still the one normal summon that gets you 3 bodies. Basically, compared to all the other Fiend stars, a Cyberse starter will get you an extra body, which then obviously an extra body lets you make Verte a lot easier, which is how you're going to get to DPE. Now, I will say you probably don't want to run both DPE and Fiendsmith in Paradise in the same deck. Number 1, that's a lot more bricks, and number 2, the way to make DPE, you're oftentimes shuffling back your laCREAMa and your Requiem just because you have to in order to get enough bodies for Verte. So they kind of conflict sometimes. Sometimes it's hard to get both DPE, Verte, and the laCREAMa setup as well. And of course, you know, if you can't even do that every time, you know, is it really worth running both the bricks? But yeah, if you still want to run DPE, here's an example combo of how you can do it now with laCREAMa, which laCREAMa also improves the DPE combos too. So I'm going to start with Cyberse Gadget, or like any gadget monster. This could be Dotscaper, this could be Firewall Guardian, you name it, they all work. Link it off into Link Disciple, like normal. And then like Cyberse Gadget will trigger and just get a token, and then make the token into your Link Devotee. And then you're going to sack the Devotee for Link Disciple, draw a card, and then put back a card, whatever, and then get the 2 tokens from the Link Devotee, and then one of the Link Devotee tokens will go into laCREAMa, and then laCREAMa plus Link Disciple goes into Moon of the Close Heaven, and then Moon will go into Requiem, and then you can use Requiem to summon out your laCREAMa, and then laCREAMa, the Crimson Tears, will send the Engraver. And here, since we already have 2 bodies out, we have the Link token that we normally wouldn't have with most other Fiendsmith starters, we can immediately go into Fiendsmith sequence. And we're going to use sequence effect, and because this is the one card combo, you can see where this might conflict a little with the Fiendsmith and Paradise setup. So we're going to use sequence, and we're going to go into laCREAMa, and the ideal shuffle back for this line of play is Moon plus the laCREAMa, the Crimson Tears, unfortunately. So that means we don't have the Paradise setup with this line. And then we use Fiendsmith laCREAMa, and we're going to add the Engraver to hand. And next we can equip the Requiem to the laCREAMa. And now we can make a Necrocrypt Princess using the laCREAMa plus the Requiem. And then don't use laCREAMa's effect to shuffle back. Now we use Fiendsmith's Engraver's effect. Now that we have Necrocrypt on the field, we can use it to add the Tract. And now we get the draw off the Necrocrypt. So like the one card combo with Cyberse cards, unlike the other starters, always gets you the Necrocrypt draw as well. So nice draw. And then use Tract. And then Tract will add Lurry. Discard Lurry. Then Lurry will special summon itself. And here we can use Engraver and shuffle back either the laCREAMa or the Requiem. That doesn't matter which one. And then Engraver plus. So here, you can see that we have these 3 Bystials in hand. If we have any extender at this point, you can make Desiree, and then you can make Desiree, and then you can make Verte with Necro Princess. But here, since we're gonna pretend that we don't have any of these other 5 cards in hand, that this was just a 1 card combo, we're going to make our Caesar now with our Engraver plus our Necrocrypt. And going to make Verte using Lurry plus Sequence. And then Verte will... You can make your High King Caesar dark for the memes if you want, but yeah, we're going to send the Fusion Destiny, and we're going to make DPE sending the Dasher plus Celestial, and whoops, that's the wrong zone. Okay, that doesn't really matter, but yeah, that's the setup. That's the 1 card Cyberse Fiendsmith combo. So where instead of going for Fiendsmith Paradise, you instead end on DPE plus Caesar, plus now with laCREAMa, you're guaranteed to get the Necrocrypt Princess draw too. So you essentially drew 2 cards. You drew 1 card, you cycled 1 card from the Link Disciple, so you exchanged the worst card in your hand for a random draw, then you drew another card. So it's like a draw 2 in a sense. And then with DPE, you know, you get DPE pops a card, and then when it passes it back to you on the following turn, you have Dasher plus Celestial as follow-up in the grave as well. So yeah, that's if you still want to play DPE and Fiendsmith Control in Master Duel, you absolutely still can, and it's still perfectly fine and good. Actually, now let's show off an example line with a 2-card combo involving a Cyberse monster plus a Bystial. And this build tends to run a lot of Bystials, so you can use the Bystials as extenders too in your combo. So here you can normal summon Cyberse Gadget. This is the same old. The start is the exact same because you know you gotta put the light and dark monsters in grade first for your Bystials, right? So Cyberse Gadget effect, put the Gadget token, and then make the Link Devotee, and Link Devotee mandatory trigger, and then Link Disciple will stack the Devotee, get a draw, put back the Fusion Destiny just to show, and then Link Devotee gets 2 tokens. Now you're gonna make Link Karibo with 1 of the tokens, and Link Karibo plus Link Disciple into Moon, and now Moon into Requiem, and Requiem, sack itself, get the Lacrima out, and then Lacrima will dump Engraver. And here, if you want to be real greedy, so here I'm going to equip the Requiem to the Lacrima, and we're going to make Necrocrypt, so Lacrima plus the Requiem going to Necrocrypt, and now we can use Engraver. We're going to put back the Moon of the Close Heaven, the special summon itself. And because we have a Bystial in hand, guess what level Bystials are, right? So we can use our Bystial, banish our Link Disciple. No matter what Cyberse monster we start with, we will always have a Link Disciple engraved to banish for a Bystial. So we're going to special summon our Bystial, and we happen to have Magnuma, which is the best one, so you get the Magnuma effect as well. And now we can overlay Engraver plus Magnuma into M7. And now we use M7. Make sure you detach the Engraver to add the Engraver back to hand. This is all a ploy to add the Engraver back to hand, so that way we can once again get the draw off the Necrocrypt Princess, because we always want to get the draw off the Necrocrypt Princess in the Cyberse DBE build. So get a free draw off the Necrocrypt Princess, and then nice, we drew another Engraver, and now we use Fiendsmith Tract to add and discard Lurie. And then Lurie is going to special summon itself. And now Lurie is a Light Fiend, so we can use Lurie plus Link Token into Sequence. And here we have 4 Light Fiends engraved, so we can use Fiends of Sequence. And you can either choose to make Lacrima if you want to make a Caesar, or you can make Desiree if you want to end on Desiree. So here, I'll make a Desiree, putting everything back, and as we're not running Fiends of Paradise, doesn't matter if we shuffle back the Requiem, so get the Desiree out, and now we can link the M7 and the Sequence into our Verte, and we're gonna equip the Sequence to the Desiree, and then use Verte Anaconda, send Fusion Destiny, and make DPE. And now here's our end board. So the end board with Cyberse, with a Cyberse normal summon plus any extender, but most often it's going to be a Bystial. You can get to the end board with DPE, either a rank 6 or a Desiree, plus Necrocrypt Princess draw, and you get to keep the Necrocrypt Princess on board. So you can keep Necrocrypt Princess as end board piece, because now on our opponent's turn, this deck plays tons of hand traps. So if you have a hand traps, like say this Ogre for example, you can use your Ogre, and then you get another draw of Necrocrypt Princess, so Necrocrypt Princess basically drew you 2 cards. This is basically Heat Soul. Or, as I mentioned before, you can use Necrocrypt Princess's equip effect if you're in a matchup where that would be good. For example, in the Fiendsmith Mirror, they go pitch Engraver, you equip their Engraver, make it real annoying for them to get access to your Fiendsmith engine. Or, Blue Eyes, make your Blue Eyes opponent Maidenless. Whenever they go Maiden to set True Light, you equip their Maiden, and now your Blue Eyes opponent is now Maidenless for their turn until they get rid of Necrocrypt. So, yeah. And of course we have all those Fiends in follow-up, and we have the DPE follow-up as well, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, DPE Fiendsmith, still viable, arguably just as good as Fiendsmith with Fiendsmith in Paradise. And this is something that TCG and OCG cannot do because they don't have access to Verte Anaconda. This is a Master Duel exclusive build that only works in Master Duel. So, yeah. So here's what a Cyberse DPE build looks like. And again, because we're running DPE, I'm not running the Fiendsmith in Paradise package. You technically can if you want to, although I don't like running an extra brick when we already run a different package with bricks in it. But yeah, you'll notice that the hand trap lineup or the non-engine lineup for this build is very heavily focused on Bystials. And the reason why I think Bystials are important for the Cyberse build is because this is a deck that, because we're not starting with laCREAMa the Crimson Tears. So because of that, there isn't really a good Ash bait for our opponent until we get to Requiem. Even in the Primite build, for example, Effort Barrel and Lordly Load oftentimes can also bait out an Ash because your opponent doesn't want you to access Drill Beam, right? You know, that makes sense. But then you can just go into your Fiendsmith combo after you eat their Ash, for example. In here, there's nothing to eat Ash, so oftentimes like the one hand trap that affects you the most is getting ashed on your Requiem, because if you do that, then you get cut off from your Fiendsmith combo. However, if you have a Bystial in hand, you can still, if you get ashed on the Requiem, you can still summon your Bystial and then summon back laCREAMa using the token from your Link Devotee, and you can still make Verte, and you can still go into DPE through an Ash Blossom, which is still fine for the most part, because you're probably going to have more, like 2 to 3 more hand traps in your hand, and then also a DPE on the field. So you can definitely win games with just DPE plus hand trap control without even getting access to the Fiendsmith engine. And then on the follow-up turn, your opponent has to deal with your Pot of Greed for Celestial, and then the fact that you haven't gone through your Fiendsmith engine yet, so you can still go through do full Fiendsmith on turn 3 as well. But yeah, in my opinion, the Bystials, on top of, you know, being hand traps and being quite good against a lot of decks in the format, specifically stuff like Blue Eyes and any Fiendsmith mirror match, they also serve as probably, I think, the best form of extender, generic extender for this deck that also lets it play through hand traps on its biggest choke point. But yeah, so if Bystials aren't as good, I probably wouldn't consider this deck as much, but since Bystials are pretty good right now, I think this deck is like pretty decent, honestly, just as viable as any other Fiendsmith control deck. And yeah, then, you know, obviously we got hand traps. We have less room for other hand traps because so many of the hand traps are Bystials, but also because our hand traps are Bystials, technically if Bystials are good in the matchup, then we have more hand traps than the other Fiendsmith decks, just because we already have 1, 2, 3, we have 8 Bystials plus 1, 2, 3, 13 other hand traps. So like 8 Bystials plus 13 other hand traps, that's like 21 hand traps in this build, including Bystials. So, you know, that's pretty good. That's a pretty healthy hand trap amount. And yeah, then we have Lubellion plus Brand Regain, and then 1 Fusion Destiny, because we want to cut down the deck size. We're kind of already over 40, so I don't want to push it even further. Ideally, I would like max out on Druid Storm or Baldric, but then like you're going way over 40, which doesn't seem too worth it. 1 laCREAMa the Crimson Tears. This is a minimal Fiendsmith engine because we're trying to bridge. Our normal summon is the Cyberse monsters and Dotscaper and Cyberse Gadget. They are not laCREAMa. So again, we only run 1 laCREAMa in this build, and only 2 Engraver, and yeah, 1 Lurie. Again, Cyberse Gadget isn't the only Cyberse monster you can run. If you want to play this and you have DPE but you don't have Cyberse Gadget as a UR, that's perfectly fine. Just play Firewall Guardian instead. It's 90% as good as Cyberse Gadget, and unlike Cyberse Gadget, it is a R instead of a UR, so it's free. And for the extra deck, so the extra deck is a bit tighter because you gotta fit in 2 slots for DPE and Verte. So like, we have laCREAMa, we have Necro Princess. We only run 1 Desiree because we're not running Fiendsmith in Paradise. So we're never doing the double Desiree line, or we're never gonna search Fiendsmith in Paradise with the Engraver. So you only need 1 Desiree for this build. The 1 DPE and Verte, obviously. The M7, the DDD Wave High King Caesar, the Typhon, and then you'd have the 3 Gadget, the 3 Cyberse engine extra deck requirements, which are Link Disciple, Devotee plus laCREAMa. You need these 3 in order for your Cyberse monsters to convert into Fiendsmith cards. Speaking of converting, Moon of Close Heaven, Sequins, SP, and Fiendsmith Requiem. So yeah, Cyberse Gadget, and give it a shot too. I think all 3 of these decks that I've shown are worth playing. So yeah, those are 3 different ways of how you can build Fiendsmith control, and honestly, that's just scratching the surface, because there are tons more ways you can build Fiendsmith. Basically, any way, any engine that's either Light Fiend based or that can get you to 2 bodies, you can run Fiendsmith with it. So, for example, other builds that I didn't cover but are definitely viable and that I've seen play before are, for example, let's say actual Magical Musketeers, because you know a Musketeer deck with actual running the Magical Musketeer spell and traps and running a higher Magical Musketeer count, because again these are Light Fiends that both get you a additional Light Fiend in rotation, and going second gets you additional bodies and additional searches. So yeah, Musketeer, just actual Musketeer Fiendsmith, and not just pure Fiendsmith smashed in a couple Magical Musketeer cards is viable. There's also Metamorph Fiendsmith in Metal Illusionist. This card, you can turn this card into a Light Fiend, because you can declare one other monster type. This card becomes that type until the end of your opponent's turn. This card is a light spellcaster. You can turn this into a Light Fiend, and guess what? That's full Fiendsmith combo. On top of Max Metal Illusionist also setting a Max Metamorph, so that if you have any other Bystial, you can also go into Red Eye's full Black Metal Dragon. Speaking of Black Metal Dragon, I know this is like sacrilege, but like Black Metal Dragon usually used to make seals pass. One Black Metal Dragon is also full Fiendsmith combo if you want to do that. It's full Fiendsmith combo while also searching Red Eye's Black Full Metal to go into Max Metal. So that's another option. I know people are gonna scoff at my next suggestion, but Tenpai Fiendsmith is a thing. It is definitely a thing. Like, it exists. It's a going first Tenpai build. So one Pydra is full Fiendsmith combo by itself. However, if you open Fiendsmith engine besides Pydra, for example, if you open a Tract or you open a Engraver, then you can do Seals plus full Fiendsmith combo. So you can end on like Seals, Caesar plus Paradise effect with Tenpai going first, and then going second, you're fucking playing Tenpai with a deck that plays like 18 plus hand traps. You know how that story goes. But also, you can also play Bystials with that, and then when you're playing a Bystial engine going first, you can use Dubellion to search Magnuma, and then Magnuma can search you. You get Regain, and then on your opponent's turn, the Regain summons back Magnuma, and Magnuma can add you a fucking Genroku. You know how infuriating it is whenever your opponent goes Magnuma, add Genroku in end phase? Well, you can literally play a going first version that triples your chances of that happening just by running 3 Lubellion in your Fiendsmith Tenpai build. So yeah, those are some more suggestions, and there's countless more different builds that I didn't mention that I'm sure I'm missing out on. So let me know if you guys are playing Fiendsmith in a way that I didn't mention here, because I know for a fact that I did not cover every way you can play Fiendsmith Control. And in fact, there's a certain way that I'm playing Fiendsmith right now that it's a bit experimental, so I haven't tested too much yet, but if it works, let me know if you're interested, because I definitely am going to be testing more Fiendsmith control type builds, and not the combo slot builds, just control type builds. And yeah, well, that's what we get, because we got Lacrima now. The world's our oyster when it comes to whatever the hell we want to do with the Fiendsmith end. So thanks for watching, and again, let me know what you guys are using this for.